You read that title right. I do not care about being a good person anymore. That's it. Thanks for watching. Just kidding. When you have a heavy subject like this, you gotta have just a little bit of humor. The title of this video is controversial, and out of context, it even sounds cold. But something tells me that there's a reason why you decided to click on this video other than rage bait and wanting to yell at me in the comments. So, since you're here and I've got your attention now, allow me to explain. For my entire life, up until about a year ago, I cared deeply about being a good person. I wanted to be kind, understanding, and empathetic. Throughout my childhood and most of my adulthood, I was often praised for those exact traits. Subconsciously, I learned that my value was in morality and virtue, how accommodating I was, and how much I could absorb without reacting. Somehow, that version of good always required me to be quieter, softer, and more forgiving than I felt safe being. As a result, I grew insecure and resentful. I often questioned why I didn't receive the same consideration or treatment from others. If being a good person meant assuming responsibility, being thoughtful, kind, mature, understanding, then why wasn't I treated with the same courtesy? Not so long ago, I realized that this version of being good was really just self-abandonment, but with better PR.
Sunshine on a Saturday, laughing as we run.
I started noticing that in many contexts, being considered a good person was less about ethics and more about emotional compliance. Because don't you know, good people don't react.
You're the one who is letting them get you worked up.
Don't get angry.
You know, it takes two to argue.
Don't say things that make others uncomfortable.
You made them feel this way. You should apologize.
Don't hold grudges.
Forgive and forget. Move on.
Don't make things worse.
Be the bigger person.
The problem is those rules are almost always enforced unevenly. The person who explodes, manipulates, interrupts, lies, or stonewalls is rarely told to be better. But for the person who reacts, well, suddenly everyone becomes a moral philosopher.
Yeah, what they did was wrong, but then you said this. Honestly, you're both immature. Both sides have some work to do.
One of the most effective ways to silence someone isn't logic, it's moral positioning. Instead of, I don't know, discussing the behavior of the person who is hurting you, or the disrespect, or the manipulation, the conversation suddenly becomes about your character.
You're being negative. Try to be more positive. Maybe they're struggling. Don't sink to their level.
Now, the discussion is no longer about their behavior, the harm, or its impact on your life. It's about whether you pass a character test. And once morality enters the room, accountability, truth, and logic quietly exit. People will act like this is wisdom when a lot of times it's not wisdom at all. It's discomfort avoidance. People don't know how to confront difficult behavior, so instead they manage your emotions. That's easier. Some people don't want resolution. Some people don't know how to find it, so they choose another strategy. Looking enlightened. You know exactly what I mean.
I just don't let things affect me. I try to see the good in everyone. At least I can sleep at night knowing I did the right thing.
Oh my God, Gandhi, is that you? Relax, it's sarcasm. These phrases sound noble until you realize how often they are used to avoid confronting bad behavior. Until you notice that the people using this language often do not practice what they preach. The reality is, these individuals are not resolving anything. They just like feeling morally elevated. Unfortunately, some people care more about looking emotionally evolved than actually addressing bad behavior. Truthfully, I think a lot of positivity culture is just emotional suppression with aesthetic lighting. Remember this when being confronted with moral positioning and virtue signaling. Peace without boundaries isn't peace. It's silence. It's self-abandonment and it's emotional compliance. And these things almost always benefit the person causing the harm. Being told to be the bigger person is rarely about growth or maturity. It's about convenience. Sometimes it's about image management, moral image management. Both are impractical and unfair. When it's about convenience, being the bigger person means being the quieter one. The bigger person absorbs the mistreatment, disrespect, and chaos. The smaller person gets away with it. When it's about image management, be the bigger person encourages the victim to find self-worth in their own suffering. The logic is that by not reacting, you become morally superior to the person who is causing the harm. This creates or protects an image of being a good person, even while being completely wronged. This dynamic is especially common in families. This is what I've realized. If being bigger means making yourself smaller, then it's not morality, it's self-erasure. It's not taking the high road, it's self-abandonment. It takes two people to engage, but it does not take two people to provoke, manipulate, disrespect, or avoid accountability. Sometimes one person pushes. They harass you. You're followed from room to room. If you're not in the same space, they blow up your phone with text messages or phone calls. Yet someone will say,
Just ignore them.
sometimes one person interrupts. As soon as you start to make a point, they're already responding. If you pause for a breath, they're speaking again. You may feel like the only way to be heard is to raise your voice. Yet someone will say,
Yelling makes it worse.
sometimes one person invalidates. They tell you your feelings are stupid or you're too sensitive. How you feel is your problem. Yet someone will say,
You just have to be stronger.
sometimes one person breaks boundaries. You tell the person doing the harm what needs to change or what can never happen again. Maybe your boundaries are respected for a couple of days or a couple of weeks. Then the same cycle repeats. Yet someone will say,
You didn't enforce your boundaries enough.
sometimes one person is clearly creating the problem. Eventually, the other person reacts because they are a human being. That's not mutual toxicity, that's cause and effect. And no, this doesn't mean that every reaction is healthy or productive or justified. It means that context matters. If I'm being honest, I think that people use phrases like "it takes two to argue" because nuance requires effort. Generalizations and cliches are easier. For a long time, I allowed being considered a good person dictate my life choices. Ultimately, it was my happiness that was sacrificed, not the person doing the harm and not the people with the moral authority advising me on how I should think, feel, and react. I'm not interested in being a good person if that means letting things slide that hurt me, diminishing what other people have done to me, taking responsibility for other people's emotions, or swallowing anger to make others comfortable. Over the past year, since I've had this realization, I have lost a number of friendships. For a long time, I was the accommodating one, the emotionally available one, the one who explained myself and apologized, the one who absorbed discomfort. I stopped doing all that. Now I care about my self-respect over moral applause. I'd rather disappoint people than abandon myself. If that makes me less good in someone else's story, so be it. Thank you so much for watching my video. I appreciate you being here, and I hope that this video resonated with you. Let me know down in the comments if this is something that you have felt before, or if you just had no idea what I was even talking about. Please make sure that you like, subscribe so that we can hang out more, and I will see you again in the next video.